Now we come to the question and answer session. Whoever have some questions, please raise your hand. Okay.
Respect to the wind tunnel testing, when you take about this building, Jinmao building, when the wind tunnel testing was done, there were no super buildings around it. No, the values you got now and the values which has been got at that time are too different.
Okay, so the question was, or I guess the problem is a lot of times when you're designing and doing the wind tunnel test for a tower, you might not know what the context will be, and certainly the surrounding buildings will influence it. So, at the time of Jinmao, there was no Shanghai World Financial Center. At the time of Shanghai Financial Center, there was no Shanghai Tower. So I'm not sure what they did for Jinmao, but for Shanghai World Financial Center, we actually put multiple possible shapes of Shanghai Tower into the wind tunnel test, and then formulated it on the worst case condition. So we generated, square extrusions, triangular forms, whatever we thought might be possible on the site to test it with and without. And it did turn out that the wind loads on the building were greater with the addition of Shanghai Tower. So I think it is a very sensible thing to do when you're wind tunnel testing these projects.
Yeah. I can say that on Guangzhou, the wind tunnel testing was a great relief for us because I think it proved that the shape was very efficient. The only thing we had to do was to change the orientation of the building slightly to get the maximum wind shedding, vortex shedding. We needed to readjust the orientation so that one of the corners of the curved corners of the trochoid were facing the wind. And that was easy to do because we had perfect views in all directions. It was just a matter of a slight readjustment.
Yeah, that's a good question for structural engineer, very concerned about the wind load. So we always discuss with the architect and the owners about the future buildings. On this Wuhan Greenland, we even talked to the owner and the city regarding the master planning phase, what would be the anticipated adjacent tall buildings near us. And the owner came back to us that on the lot next to it, they are going to purchase, it's going to be a 350-meter tall building versus our 630-something meter building. So it was an alert to us. So we talked to the wind tunnel guy, and we did put the future 350-meter tall building there, and then we showed the result to the owner with and without this future building. And the decision of the owner and the city planning people are aware of the wind effect. And also, as Chris had pointed out, as architects and engineers, the orientation of the tower is very sensitive. So that's why we have turntables. We rotate the building 360 degrees and see what angle of wind is the best for the building or the worst for the building, so we can choose the right strategy to deal with this problem.
Okay. Any more questions?
I'm a structural engineer from Chicago, and just want to comment on the question here. He asked about Jinmao Tower. Actually, by that time, when I work at SIM, I work on this project as a structural engineer. So at that time, there's no building around. So for the wind tunnel testing, they test the current condition and the future condition. So actually, for the wind tunnel testing, there are a couple of tall buildings, even taller than Jinmao around it for the future. So Jinmao Tower is designed for both existing condition and future condition. Okay, that's the answer.
It's good to have the confirmation.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm a structural engineer from Tokyo. I want to have a question for David and Dennis about the Ping An Financial Center. It looks like it's very small for its height. So the aspect ratio looks like 1/10. And I think that must have been a big challenge for the structural engineer. And maybe, Dennis, you were trying to say, David, give me some more area so I can have a larger lever arm to reduce the building deflections and such. Is that a site constraint? Is that an architectural constraint?
Yeah, a bit of both. So the site it's kind of shaped like a piano and very small relative to the kind of tower that goes on. I think our plot ratios in excess of 20. So very, very dense. And then there's setbacks because of the subway. So the amount of room we had to work with was very small. So that was one issue. And the second issue is China has a code which restricts the size of the floor plate in terms of fire compartments. So once you go above a certain size floor, there's a whole other set of issues you have to work with. So for Ping An, we kept the base of the building as wide as possible. So the lobby area and then we call the zone 1 elevator zone actually flare out at the base to give Dennis a wider structural stance. And then it kind of tucks in into this more compact position. That being said, I think if the site constraints weren't there, if the fire compartment constraints weren't there, I think logically, yeah, we would have advocated a slightly larger floor.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. As we point out at the very beginning, the site is very restricted and we have to build a very slender building. On this project, I want to point out that we are working with local engineer CCDI and Professor Fu here. Is our key advisor on a lot of aspects of the code and what kind of aspect ratio we can deal with, and also with the bracing system. So we work with Professor Fu Yi and on a great deal addressing this slenderness ratio. That's why there's so much extended work beyond what we anticipate at the beginning. How to relocate those outrigger frame, those outrigger secondary bell truss, and so on and so on. It was a lot of work with the local engineers, and in order to meet also the code requirements. But we don't want to create anything out of the extraordinary. We want to make it a simple building. So we always want to emphasize from the beginning that the collaboration between owner, the local engineers, and everyone, architect, is so key to every success. And the amount of efforts is definitely increased many, many folds.
The session finished. Thank you very much.